All right, welcome everybody. We're excited to jump into the AI Sales Development Summit 2026. This is going to be a fun one. You've got Gabe Larson here and Dave Elkington, the CEO of Autonom. Dave, thanks for joining. How are you?
Amazing. Actually, I'm excited to be here. This
Yeah.
seems this is going to be a good event.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm jumping right in here, but boy, big numbers, right? We almost crossed 3,000. You've got tons of companies. Check out some of these logos. People want to know what's going on in prospecting. Right. We also did a little awards program on the side. I don't know how much you got into that, but over 20,000 votes.
It's crazy, actually. And it really shows how important like this kind of AI as it relates to prospecting and the entire kind of sales industry. Like it shows how much energy is behind this right now.
Yeah, I mean, the 20,000 votes, it's awesome to be able to recognize some of those people who are really trying to lead the way in this prospecting world, leaders and thought leaders that people are finding on LinkedIn and trying to learn from as we navigate this crazy environment that we're all in. So
look at the companies attending here. It is it is no question the who's who. Every major company on the planet is actually, strangely enough, is attending this. And I think it shows to the relevance of this topic right now.
Yeah, not just the attendees, Dave. If you check it out, I mean, we have quite the speaker list coming out. I think we ended up with, a little over 20 speakers. What I thought was great is, as we go into that, some real practitioners, a couple of people actually diving in, showing how they do their outbound prospecting. And then we've got some strategists who, are really talking big picture about how companies are restructuring their sales development organization. So really excited to jump into some of these speakers. And I know you'll be interviewing a couple of those here in just a minute.
Right.
So I want to just hit the agenda, Dave, and then maybe high level have you and I talk for just a minute. So basically, just so everyone knows, lay of the land, Dave and I are kicking it off here. We're going to get going. Just to set the stage on what's going on in the world of sales development. We have 3 keynote coming up right after that. Victoria coming from IBM. Boy, are they doing some awesome things, Dave. I know you're going to be leading that session, but how they're finding the balance of people and technology. She'll be followed by Matthew Ward coming from Boston Consulting Group. We've known Matt for a long time.
Forever, right?
Those guys are doing some amazing things on the strategy side of the house. And then last but not least, a friend of mine from Meta who's running their sales development team and trying to find how they can use technology to really drive it forward. So after that, we'll then jump into some of the pre-recorded sessions so that you can dive in and consume those at your will. And then we'll end today with our awards program. So any thoughts on the agenda or any quick comments, Dave?
No. The interesting thing about this is you've got, Meta just dropped a new model yesterday. And so like that I think will change the face of Meta. I think you've got, BCG talking to and consulting with every major company on how to adapt to this AI disruption. And then you have IBM, one of the largest companies on the planet, and we'll be able to talk to Victoria and understand like what are they doing. So like I think it's going to be a super interesting session. Like the whole thing will be very interesting. I'm actually pretty excited. We've done some prep on this, but look, a lot of this is it's live, it's uncoached, so it's going to be what it is. So like I guess strap in and be ready for this.
Strap in, man. Well,
let's go.
I'd love to get your high level is before we jump into some of these kind of keynotes. Obviously, Autonom's right in the thick of it, supplying some of these cloud employees, working with sales development teams, figuring out inbound to outbound, what's working, what's not working. Start big picture. How's the world changed? What's going on in AI? You definitely have your ear to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, so you've talked me into doing these daily posts. So if a lot of people who are attending probably see my spam posts, and I do them every morning. And what I'm really trying to do is understand, like, specifically in the go-to-market space, right? So think sales, customer support, marketing, even recruiting, like what's new, and what does it actually mean from a go-to-market perspective? So look, here's what I'm seeing. I think no one knows. Like, if I'm just being honest, like nobody freaking knows.
That's your
really
whole point.
That is the whole point. Like, that's my punchline. Like, we're trying to figure it out though. And every day there's new models, there's new technology. So I'm just going to hit some big picture things. The whole SaaS industry is in total disruption, right? Like everybody sees it. They call it the SaaS. What is it? SaaS apocalypse.
SaaS apocalypse, right?
Yeah, SaaS apocalypse. And if you look at like the market cap of pretty much every public SaaS company, I mean, just take a look in the last 90 days, more or less they've lost basically 30% of their value. So you're talking trillions of dollars of market value has been lost. The question is why? And it's because technology and software is going away from helping us do work, right? Think about what like a CRM does or a ticket system does. It captures data. It basically lets us put in data, analyze the data, pull data out, edit the data, but it's just work. It's us doing work. What the AI disruption is doing is it's actually allowing us, allowing the technology to do the work for us, and then we become orchestrators. So there's lots of fear of like, oh, well, do we lose our jobs? And I think we're going to hear a lot about the fact that we probably won't. In fact, I think there's more jobs. I think they're harder jobs. Like we have to think versus just kind of turn off our brain and just do stuff. So we're really moving away from tactical work into strategic work. We'll talk more about that today. I think there's two categories of AI every practitioner needs to be thinking about. One is more of this assisted work. So AI can assist a lot. And on the other side of the spectrum, AI can just do the work. And they're very different. So you kind of have, and that's what we call it, like at Autonom, we're delivering cloud employees. They just do the work autonomously. That's the name. I know it was not very clever. Autonom is basically delivering a autonomous worker. I mean, we see similar things in the consumer space with OpenClaw. Like everybody, if you haven't tried OpenClaw, you should just stop watching this right now and just go install OpenClaw. Don't put your credit card in and try that. But one half of AI, especially in this sales space, the whole go-to-market space, is autonomous workers. And the other half is the assisted workers.
Yeah, so, Dave, how do you kind of play that? The double click on the organizational structure, right? So you mentioned kind of these assistants or employees, but how do you see, I love the SaaS apocalypse and how that's changing the way we work, but how do you feel like organizational structures, some of these go-to-market structures are changing as you introduce these different
types of AIs? So look, everyone's heard the term of, an agent. There's two types of agents. You have, again, this assistant that is helping us do our work. It's more kind of, it allows us to do research, or it allows us to schedule for us. It does kind of individual, think about it more of like a one-to-one AI assistant. And then you have a one-to-many cloud employee or kind of complex agent that does all of your work. So let me just give you a really quick example. We've got a client, and again, the idea is I want to paint the picture of what the art of the possible. So there's a client that is a Fortune 500 healthcare company. They have 400 inbound support reps in the Philippines. They've virtually replaced that entire team with an inbound AI voice support agent that does all the way from tier 1 support to tier 3, where they're creating trouble tickets, they're reporting them back to the individuals. They're basically, and this saved this company over 12 million. You have another Fortune 500 company who's basically replaced their entire SDR team with an inbound response SDR. And think about what they're doing in this case. And this is super relevant for today. This AI SDR captures a web lead out of Salesforce. So, there's a trigger out of Salesforce, captures the lead, then it goes and researches the lead. So it goes and looks at their company's website, scrapes all of that, looks at the individual on LinkedIn, looks at online kind of like reputation type things. So researches them, goes into the CRM, researches them and says, are they already an opportunity? Have they been working with us? What sales rep is the right rep to engage with them? Does all the research. Then starts a sequence and actually will send the initial email. It will place the phone call. It'll schedule the appointment. It'll remind both parties about the appointment. It'll actually record the conversation, like deliver the summary of it, make assignments, reschedule the next appointment. So it'll actually do that full cycle. And what's interesting with these kind of technologies, a lot of the people attending today, the listeners, will remember about 10 or 15 years ago, I did a research study. It's, the speed to lead, trend. We did an HBR study. Sales reps, even though we want to do the right stuff, we don't. Like, we're just busy. We're just humans. AI does exactly what we tell it to do. The challenge to the whole thing is we need to stop doing stuff and we need to start managing the technology to do stuff. So that's the shift in the org chart. Well, so let me one other point. Let me give one other point. Org structures are flattening. We've seen this all over the place. So rather than having lots of tiers of, VPs and then directors and then senior managers and then individual contributors, we're seeing this thing flatten out where kind of everybody is a manager. They may manage some individuals, but they also may manage some AI, cloud employees or complex agents. So we're seeing a broad scale flattening, which I'm interested to hear from IBM and BCG and what you're hearing at Meta. So those are the trends I'm seeing.
Yeah. So I love the idea that there's this kind of cloud employee and cloud assistant, and in some places, you can use a cloud employee and it can kind of replace full jobs, whereas cloud assistants, are able to support and help these people in doing their job better, specifically in sales development. As we kind of wrap today, I know there's a couple principles you've found as you've seen AI implemented. One that's kind of coming, like, Gabe, you're always, AI can't do what we can't do ourselves. What are a couple of those things that you kind of leave the audience with in kind of our portion here?
So as you're thinking about deploying AI, there's like a few rules that, and I bet you we hear this from both, Victoria, I'm sure we'll hear it. We'll hear it all day long. AI, like, if you get nothing else out of this event, just listen to this one point, and then you can just stop listening. You can, watch, I don't know.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Rick and Morty or something. I don't know. So number one, if you aren't doing it successfully with humans, you will not do it successfully with AI. Like, I'll just say it again. If you don't have a successful process already in place with humans in an outbound motion or an inbound response motion or a research motion, AI will do it worse. So here's your rule of thumb. If you're doing it effectively with humans and it's a redundant sort of procedural task, AI probably will do it better. If you're not doing it or you're doing it ineffectively, AI will actually do it worse. So that's your number one rule. The number two thing is, think about your deployments in terms, like, before, it's kind of the same thing. And I know we're going to hear this, in our conversation with BCG. Build your process and systems. You are the strategist. Your AI is not going, you want it to think for you because thinking's super hard. AI will not think for us. It's doing, you need to think, and then it can orchestrate. So really spend the time to build your processes, and then you can, and make them successful. Then you can deploy AI to do it. So a little bit redundant, but you get it.
No, I love it, man. Look, that's a great talk track. I like the high level, so many cool things going on. And I think that's what we're going to dive into next. And so we're going to actually bring on, if we can, Victoria from IBM. I think she's here in the background somewhere. There she is.
There we go.
Victoria, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate you jumping on. So Victoria, as we said, is kind of a VP over at IBM. Dave, I'm going to let you two chat.
Small company. Most people haven't heard of it, but cool.
I'm going to let you two chat a little bit about the cool stuff she's doing over there at IBM. Boy, has she built a cool team and doing some fun stuff. So Dave, I'm going to leave it to you, and I'll pop back here in 30 minutes. Victoria, good to see you. Have a good one.
Make sure we don't go long, Gabe. Keep an eye on us. We could probably go long here. So just help guide us. So look, it's been a long time since we've connected, but I'm really excited. It was it at VMware that we talked last?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, VMware InsideSales.com back in the. I mean, this is right years ago. Almost
this is old school.
Yeah, very old school.
Oh man, let's not date ourselves. Actually, maybe it was like a year and a half ago. Let's just go with that. Thank you. First off, thank you for being on. I think a lot of people are super interested to see in here. I mean, again, we're nearly 3,000 people in attendance today. I think a lot of people are very interested to see. Look, IBM is one of the largest companies on the planet, and I think you guys have resource and access to, whatever it is you need to be successful. But I want to first kind of go into your background a little bit. Like, how did you end up? I mean, you mentioned briefly, like, you've been at a couple other places, FastPass for a period of time. So, like, give us a little bit of like your background. Like, how did you end up at IBM? In fact, I'm gonna start you in a little bit of a circuitous place. Like, where are you from? Like, are you from the East Coast? What's your background?
Sure.
What did you study?
So I'm from the Bay Area. I was born and raised right outside of San Francisco, a small little town called Foster City. Went to Santa Barbara. I did not study anything to do with sales or technology. I was a classical literature major and archaeology emphasis. I was going to teach.
That's amazing.
But I was very curious, just constantly just interested in new things. And, I really wanted to help and give back. And I think that sort of grounds me in how I ended up here today.
As a side note, by the way, I studied philosophy. So like, I'm like, yep, let's go like that.
Yeah.
I think that level of, and frankly, with kind of the current state of AI, I think a lot of those humanities degrees are actually more important than, because it'll do like AI can do the math. It can do a lot of the more, I'd say, science-based things, but understanding history. Again, I love that you studied archaeology and classical literature. Like, that's amazing. So anyways, I'm fully supportive on my side.
Oh, no, that's really cool. I did take a bunch of philosophy classes too. And I think that it is really interesting to understand how in sales philosophy, and then just being curious around how things are formed and created, really sets a lot of the groundwork for, your day-to-day work.
Right.
So I had a couple of, so I moved back home after college. I started at Oracle, and VMware was just coming online out in Redwood, Palo Alto. And I got a job at VMware, and I spent the next 11 years at VMware, moved to Austin to open our inside sales office. That's how I met you. We were creating a large, what would be now a digital center in Austin, Texas. And we wanted to be close to Dell, which is kind of full circle. So we were close to Dell as one of our strongest partners back then, and IBM. So I partnered with IBM, Dell, and HP, and EMC.
And you were building one of the largest, digital centers, the largest inside sales teams ever built, honestly, back then. I mean, it was pretty staggering, the project that you guys were undergoing.
It was. I mean, we got over 200, 300 people at one point. We really modeled it after EMC. EMC was really instrumental in how we were looking at deploying it. We got ideas from Cisco back then. They had a new hire academy that we sort of stole from with their permission. It was fun. It was building a lot of the foundations of what we're seeing today. And I talk about that a lot, in that there's always been some sort of transformation in sales, whether it was virtualization, cybersecurity. Right now, obviously the hottest thing is AI and how we use it.
Right. So, okay, then you're now, leading. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just full. So after VMware, I ended up going back to VMware as part of Carbon Black acquisition. It was an opportunity for me to go back to VMware to run the SBU, which was our security business unit, and that's really when I started messing around, if you could say, with AI. Really, when that was starting to become in the forefront. What could we use? How do we apply that in our daily life? And that was really how I really leaned into it.
If you think back then, and that's pretty early, right? If you think about kind of this AI evolution, is there a thing that stands out? You're like, oh, this was my key learning from that period of time.
Well, I think what was a key learning there was that it was almost taboo to start using AI, right? It was like, what are you doing using AI right now? Like, aren't you smart enough to do this yourself? And I remember thinking, something I always talk about with my sales teams: if you have 1 hour in the day to hit your number, what are you going to be doing? How are you going to be more effective? How are you going to make sure that you have the right skills, the right opportunities? And I mean, the biggest cliche is low-hanging fruit, right? But how do you get your number faster and make it work? And I thought about, if I can create a cadence that quickly put together the 3 business units using an F shape, using what looks right when we're trying to reach someone and make it personal, why wouldn't I want to do this? Now, there's a lot of limitations. Some companies won't allow you to upload, or still you can't put company data. But what we tried to dabble with was, how do I make our team more effective? And what tools do we already have?
And okay, I want everyone to, stop and take some notes. Like, it is a little bit, maybe obvious, but it's not obvious, right? Like, if one thing to learn from Victoria today is, like, if you had an hour to hit your number today, like, I actually realize I've not heard anyone say that. So I'm gonna credit you with this. I may, go post on it. If you had an hour to hit your number today, like, what would you do? And that's a pretty interesting. So today, I'm just gonna tangent. We'll come back. We'll just go on a side quest here for a second. If you were to pick an hour today to make sure your team hits their number today, what would you do?
Oh,
unscripted, by the way. So if everyone's like, we're making this up on the fly.
how would I help them, or what would I do?
Either one. Maybe what would you do?
So I think two things that are extremely important. What are the KPIs that you need to be successful? And when I say that is, do you understand your territory? Do you know how many customers you have? Do you understand your book of a business? And if you don't, how do I create a prompt for them that is very specific? You are an enterprise AE working at IBM, selling automation products. I have 10,000 accounts. How do I focus on getting the most? How do I build out my time?
Most effective. Right? Like where's my biggest bang for my buck? I have 10,000. So it's this issue of like, there's so much noise. Where do I put my focus?
And I think what used to take 2 to 3 hours to develop could happen in minutes now. And so now instead you obviously have more time. And I was backstage listening a little bit, and when you were talking about that we're orchestrators, or that a lot of reps are more like orchestrators or even managers, I think that's really key. Everyone has AI now. You walk down RSA, you're at every conference, AI. And I don't think it's obviously not going away. But I think at this point, everyone has it, everyone has access. But how are we using it? And how do you differentiate yourself using AI to make you more effective? And as a leader, I'm trying to make that at scale for my team. In fact, I was running slightly behind. I was hoping to get on here right on time, getting off a forecast or a staff call where we were talking about there's a lot of people doing really good things across the floor. How do we document this and make it easy? When you start your day, here's a prompt you can use. When you start your day, send your AI agents out to look at all of the accounts that were doing something on the website or searching for keywords of your competitors.
Yeah.
So your intent to call is not cold.
Okay, so you put two things. I want to pull on two threads because those are both super interesting. The first one, it's just so I don't forget. I'm going to come back to this, but you just described about AI enablement for your sales team, which is I actually have not heard of anybody say this. I mean, it's kind of obvious now that you say it. I'm just like, well, yeah, of course. But how do you standardize and structure the learnings that your entire floor, because everybody's trying things. How do you find the things that are working, standardize it, and then distribute it and kind of level up your entire team? Otherwise, everybody has the same tools. How do we be better? So do you have a thought on that?
Well, I think about just uploading a picture into one of the AI models right now. Yeah. And you can ask it a question of what you think it might do, but your picture comes out wrong, or it's not what you were looking at. And so you're very specific. Show me, I think there's one at Christmas with a candy cane and pink pillows and confetti. But if you're very specific, you get what you want, right? And so it's very easy to say, hey, give me a list of all my accounts and tell me where to prospect. That's not really going to be efficient at all. Be very specific and detailed. And so I want this persona, this buying committee, this product, 3 pain points, and then help me with a very personalized script of what you know about anyone in this space, right? So I want my team, just like AI is going to make us faster, how do I make them faster using AI?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so you're actually covering a couple of important things I want everybody to hear. So AI, if you're not careful, is one thing that Gabe and I have found in our research becomes expanding. So because it just will give you more and more and more, and it actually is the opposite of what you probably should do. What you just described is you actually want to be more narrowing and more focused in the way you use it and prompt it and get data out of it.
I've done this way too much myself, where I'm trying to research something and I start asking it questions and it's giving me the output. And as I'm seeing the output, I'm thinking of something new. And then I ask another question. I don't really know what it all said. And so what's happening is you're having these conversations back and forth, not really retaining what you want to learn. So what I've really refocused my energy when I'm working to be more effective is summarize and then provide me with a question that is almost provocative. Come back and challenge my thought on this so that I could see a different point of view, or don't sound like everyone else in every other company that's using an AI model, to ask the same director of IT or the same CISO, the same question, because we all started sounding alike in the beginning when at Carbon Black, as we were testing this. We also, every email I would get, even personally, like I'm sure Dave, you would get the same as a buyer. It sounded like you're as the VP of inside sales, you must care about these 3 things. Well, every single company was asking me, saying the same thing. And so there's also a sense of, you don't really know me just because you're using AI.
Well, okay. So let me pause you then. Everyone here, I mean, we all get those AI generated emails right now, and they look exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
And I like, they're so obvious. It's what you're saying. Like, you have to differentiate. Just because you have the tool doesn't mean you're using it effectively. So like, I actually really love what you're saying here. Like, you have to be thoughtful. You have a thought. Go finish.
Yeah, you do. So again, like, it was a lot easier at Carbon Black, just to give you a really good example. And any security company, imagine you're a CrowdStrike or SentinelOne, or even I've been at ForcePoint and other companies, but you sound, after a breach, guess who gets an email? Like every CISO, every director, and
that's right.
Email that you had a breach, my product can help you. How do you sound different? And so again, depending on who it is, depending on the buyer and the persona, you should change it. So I always, I try to stop every conversation or education with my reps and my team. You need to sound different, because there's 100 vendors doing the exact same thing, sending the same CIO the same email, and or anytime a blog is published or in an earnings. Right.
Some trigger. So here's what I'm going to kind of highlight what you said. I think there's this temptation. We're all like, oh, AI is creating my personalization for us. So it's like, I don't have to think. I want to be able, basically, we're being kind of lazy. We're like, oh, I'm using an agentic email tool of some kind, and it's going to go create all of this personalization. What you're saying is it's not. Actually, what you have to do, I'm going to circle back to what you said. What you need to be is very thoughtful. You need to write a very, very specific prompt that lets you personalize, be more you, and basically differentiate.
I would say that you're exactly right. You almost have to do the thought thinking for it, because you know what you want. I'm like, what you want AI to say. So
no, that's right though. It is, because if not,
right.
It's so tempting to just let it do it, because it's like, oh, it'll just come up with the right stuff, and I just don't have to I don't have to think about it. But you can't let it do that. It's the wrong reaction.
Yeah, and usually, depending on your cadence or your conversation or even your script for leaving a voicemail, there are some that can be automated, right? You could have the follow-up email, hey, just bring this back to the inbox. Fine.
Sure.
Like, you can't be that much. There's not that much more creativity. Or maybe you're doing something different. People are playing around with podcast type videos that we're creating. We're doing things, obviously, with LinkedIn. Also, a lot of this isn't new. Even when email scripting, when you're using a cadence like HubSpot or SalesLoft or Outreach, we all had to be different, and we all were sending emails that said things like, there was a famous one with, am I barking up the wrong tree? Or is a dinosaur chasing you? Those are kind of fun at first, and then you're like, oh gosh.
And then everybody is sending them, and AI. So it's the point here is, it's a new technology, but the problems and the pitfalls are the same. So if you were to go big picture for me, if you were to say, what are the 3 big wins you've seen in your team where you're like using technology, AI technology? What are the 3 real kind of key learnings and or tools that have been really effective for you guys?
So specific tools, obviously having the right tech stack, right? I've seen, RevTech or your sales tools are keys to the kingdom, right? It's how you get things working. It's about scale and efficiency as well. And that varies by company, and it varies by product and complexity. But if we give you the tools, let me just kind of give you a little bit of my point of view, and then I can answer the question. I think that the tools here are, again, about how do you use them and how do you get better at what you're doing. And a lot of this is at scale. if I were to say the three things that we do really well around AI, I mean, we do have some limitations just being a large company. And we don't use there's a lot of out of the box AI agents right now that, yourself included, that I think are extremely valuable. But personally right now, what we do is we use AI internally for enablement and preparation for opportunities and getting ready for demos, getting ready for calls. And we also use it as a coaching tool, right? So we do have opportunity to do coaching. You can ask your agent to help you have a conversation like this. In fact, I probably should have done that. I'm not even eating my own dog food right now, but I would have potentially, if we had questions up front, I could have had them ask the questions.
And role play, just role play.
Yeah, role play.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And that on the fly coaching is just as important as being able to do sequencing and following up. We have tools that do what you say, right? Where I think I, again, was backstage where you were talking about that you have agents behind the scenes that will send a follow-up email, that will do research of where you've been. And we present that data to the team when they're doing a follow-up. So I think that is, and that's been around for a while. You have things like, Sixth Sense and Base that do that. And it's getting better and better and better. And in fact, they're using AI technologies to even get better and better too. So we're all sort of rising together to get to this like utopia of what great looks like. And we're learning what is working, what's not. And then the other is we have two things that, and this isn't a pitch on IBM at all, but Bob is our new autonomous development AI agent. And then also we have Watson Orchestrate, and we use it internally as a team to help prepare. So we will record notes and record videos, and then we would actually upload that into our systems, into Bob. Yeah. Provide follow-up, again, a pitch deck for them. So if they need to take it to their boss, provide, tools to help through the sales cycle. So, we're, again, probably things you've all done before, but the time it takes to do it, the effort, maybe someone's output is not as good. There's opportunity for us there that we're getting better. And we're exploring, again, more autonomous work streams where when a rep comes in the morning, they've got their meetings booked because the leads and the personas that are out in the universe are actively engaging, and they're doing a lot of that work.
So that's kind of, you're leading me the next question. So again, I'm just going to recap so people understand. One of them, what I'm hearing from you is people should find the right tech stack, right? Like find out what works in your org. You did highlight something. I'm going to just pull that thread also. InfoSec is a thing. Like the security, and we probably don't have time to go down the whole security, rabbit hole. But inside of IBM, bringing external tools has a whole, it's its own thing. It's got its own payload of problems. So just I'm sure if you've not run into that, everybody, like you need to partner with your InfoSec and your security and IT teams to know how to bring the appropriate tools in. The bigger the company you are, the harder that is. Like, IBM, I'm sure it is a non-trivial task to bring an outside AI tool in.
Yeah, for all the SDRs out there, if you're calling larger companies and you, or anyone, in fact, even at LastPass, it was a huge, InfoSec needs to be involved in the beginning. I'd make sure you're not putting anything in forecast or pipeline if they haven't passed InfoSec
more than ever
review. Yeah,
it's more. We sold a lot of, inside sales. I've, a couple other companies. I have never seen the involvement, the required involvement of InfoSec as I have as AI has emerged into, because I think we just don't know what it means and what it could mean.
Well, data is king now, right? Data. That's right. Data really is. And so having that data out in the world, and, obviously there was a large announcement even yesterday with Anthropic around
Mythos.
New learning model, and how do we make sure that we're protecting each other's IP, our customers and our employees. So there is that other side. I know we're not here to talk about that, but there is.
But be aware of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing you kind of shared. If you're selling make sure like that. Actually, another really pretty good nugget, like bring InfoSec in. If you think you're going to close a deal with someone, you better have InfoSec in there at the beginning. And if you're not, like that, you push that deal out a quarter at least.
Yeah. I
right?
love, I'm like the shiny toys. Like, I love that. I want the newest and the latest and the greatest, and I will be happy ears. And I want it. And then I have to go to InfoSec and they're like, we need to fill out a security review. You need to do this. We already have something. What are you going to replace? Who else will this benefit? Normal stuff.
It's a whole thing, but more than ever because of what your point of data. So that's one thing you said that I really love. Let me kind of like pivot a little bit. How has your org structure changed? Are you seeing, because I alluded, you were backstage. I alluded that we're seeing a kind of a leveling out or it's very early though, Meta, Block. We've seen some of the companies talk about this. How do you think about your org structure? How do you think, we have one client who replaced all of their inbound SDRs with, autonomous agents, but they didn't fire them. They actually promoted them to do more outbound. So some of them actually manage and orchestrate those autonomous agents, and others got promoted to be either AEs or into kind of more of an outbound motion. How are you seeing kind of the displacement and the org structure change?
So being new to IBM, I would say that I don't know if I have a really good reference of where they were before where we are today. But what we are doing today is we are getting, I don't want to say we're flattening, because in fact, we have we have frontline leaders, we have directors, we have VPs, and so forth. Where you used to see maybe an 8 to 10 ratio, maybe we're seeing now 10 to 12, because some of the forecasting, some of the deal reviews are done using, again, AI, right? Where it's bubbling up the top deals that are on track, the ones that are, potentially at risk, and you're doing a little bit more math to figure out how am I going to get to my number than the traditional, let's go through every single deal. Mm-hmm. So it gives managers a little bit more time. I do think that it's easy to say that, but you don't want to, you still have to coach them. You still have to help them with the deal. So, you still have to answer questions and be available. And so there is going to be a fine line between, you can't scale to 30 potentially. With humans. Now, what I liked what you said, and I wish I want to think about this, and maybe it's even a follow-up note I send you in a post or something, but I like the idea of everyone being a manager of their own agent. Team. Right? Yeah. Like you could almost say that, in your territory, you've got an agent that does your inbound, an agent that helps you with your outbound. You've got an agent that is, checking your pipeline, your deals. You've got an agent helping with forecasting. I think there's something there. I don't know if this is one of the questions, but we are doubling down in our early hires. We call them, early career hires.
Let's share that. And Gabe told me you guys spoke about that. So I want to understand that's against the trend.
Yeah.
Like most people are saying, hey, we just want senior people. They know how to run AI. We want more orchestrators. And you guys are going the opposite.
Yeah, we are. We're almost doubling. And this is public. I mean, it was out in the news maybe 3 months ago. IBM put out a big press release about doubling the engineer early hires, the consulting early hires, the sales early hires. And what we're seeing is, there's obviously generations that are starting to retire, and we're getting, as we grow up, we need to have the next generation. Mm-hmm. And inside sales has always been this real model. We've recruited from campuses. We your interns, we bring you on, we hire and we train, and then there's obviously a really good cost model as well for a rep who feels they're being invested in. There's loyalty. And so we're really doubling down on that. And we want the next wave to be trained in AI. In fact, when we are looking for new hires right now, we are really leaning in on having a technology background. So you can still be business marketing, you could be an engineer, but we're really leaning in on having courses and understanding. And the more technical doesn't mean it's better, but what we're seeing is that buying behaviors of our customers are being done before they even get to us. So having that technical conversation the first time you're talking to the buyer is helping us with faster
it's super
sales.
important. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So again, and I think we're about out of time, but like one of the things you've said several times is basically try and zig when everybody else is zagging, right? So like if everybody's like, we just want senior people, like great, there's an arbitrage opportunity. There's something that I can be different and find an opportunity to be more successful. Like,
yeah, I mean, we've kind of coined this internally as sort of empty calorie activity. So how and maybe this goes back to that 1 hour, to hit your number. Don't do the empty calorie stuff. Make sure that we're doing the meat and potatoes of the job. And I definitely try to eliminate a lot of the insecurity of it and making sure that we're helping them to be obviously successful.
That's amazing, actually. I mean, there's so super rich conversation. Like for real, thank you for taking the time. How can we, and just so everybody, who's watching knows, we're going to use AI to summarize the conversation. And we're going to share with everybody, the overview and kind of the key findings here. What's the best way? If people have questions, they want to reach out, like how should they reach out to you? Is email or LinkedIn or, TikTok? Like what's the best way to connect with you?
TikTok. Definitely TikTok, Victoria, right?
Yeah, I'm chronically online. I do love following all my TikTok stars. LinkedIn is fine. Absolutely. I'm pretty active on it. I try to be responsive, but I would say that, and you guys could probably figure out my email, but
we won't share your email. LinkedIn. Let's do LinkedIn.
I'm in Zoom info still at LastPass. So
is that right?
Update me.
Go get your Zoom info, contact info, and reach out to you there. No, so LinkedIn. It sounds like LinkedIn's the best way people have questions.
Yeah, and I think I'd just say one thing to just leave it as this, right? AI isn't really the differentiator. It's really how we're using it, and execution, talent, and how we operate. And I hope that ties into a lot of your key themes. It sounds like operators and managers of the business. So thank you again, you guys, for this time. It's so great to really reconnect. And
thank you for doing it. It's fun to hear, the successes you're having. And so, and again, I want to just highlight what you just said. Like it's still the fundamentals, right? The technology is not going to make your job easier. Like you still have to do the work. You have to have talent. You have to do the preparation. You have to do all of the basics, and then it'll only make you better.
Yeah. Okay, you guys got to smile for me.
It was amazing. I love it.
Yeah, take it.
This will be for my TikTok. I'll use that for my TikTok.
That's right.
I can use that.
Awesome, Victoria. Thanks so much.
It's
really
amazing.
appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. Awesome. Yeah, look at that.
That's
Dave.
Cool, right? She's amazing.
Yeah, look, I mean,
what a veteran.
Yeah, really doing some stuff. Obviously, she's been at a couple of those booms, right? The initial virtual sales, the inside.
She didn't say it, but I'm going to sell for her. She was at VMware when it was the fastest growing company on the planet.
Those guys were
and she was building the sales organization that was driving so much of that growth. So like if she's a baller, she's very humble. She was understated, but no, for those watching, she's a big deal.
Oh man, when I jumped on with her before, Dave, I mean, you can just feel her passion. She's just like, we're just trying this, we're doing this, and running around. And it was cool to see what IBM is doing and not doing, and then the doubling down on people, as she said. I thought that last point, right, fascinating. A lot of people are like, we need to eliminate, and they're like, hey, we're trying to find actually ways to grow on the people side of the house. So anyways, pretty cool stuff. We did obviously hit a lot about AI. I wanted to make sure the audience here, we do have an AI experience for you just below where you see Dave and I. It's an interview with an AISDR. I dare you to try it out. Her name is Zoe. Feel free to interview her. What does an AISDR do? How could it help an organization like yours? So if you get bored while we're chatting, make sure you click that button.
No one will ever get bored. They can just watch my TikTok. It'll work fine.
I know. You definitely threw off with TikTok. So, all right, man. So next session, we're going to bring Matt Ward on to the call. Matt, you there?
I am here. How's it going, guys?
Oh my goodness. All right, man. The living legend. Here he goes.
This is amazing. And look, we can go no further than observe Chewbacca in your background. That's the best background I've experienced in a year. It's so good, dude.
I'm definitely not needed on this one. So Dave, I'll let you and Matt run it. Matt, good to see you. We'll talk soon.
Matt, so it's good to see you again. It has been about 200 years since we've connected last. It feels like that's how old we are. We're like 200 years old. Yeah, it's been a long time, dude. Thank you, like for real. Thank you for coming on. I think I mentioned earlier, but we have almost 3,000 people in attendance today. There's a ton of interest and a ton of demand in what's going on. I think, candidly, we're all confused, me included, of like, where's this ultimately going to go? But you are in a place that you're kind of the head of the, I mean, you just have access to so many organizations doing so many different things. So I think I'm actually super excited about the conversation today. I think you'll be able to share a lot of insights. Before we go there, give us, I want to get into your background. Like, so where are you from? Where did you grow up? What did you study? How in the heck did you end up here?
That's a really, really good question. So I'll give you a sense of where I grew up. So go Bills. I'm from Western New York originally. And I did engineering in university. And then, so like when I came out of that, I actually went into technical sales, selling abrasives of all things.
Hot space. It was a hot space back then. Right.
While during college, I also did Radio Shack and Cutco knives and all that fun stuff too. So a long history of selling random stuff.
I did Cutco once too. It's just like, oh, that's the worst job. It's so bad. Somehow we got roped into it.
Yeah, it's that $14 an hour back then, which seemed like a lot of money, but it really was $14 an appointment. So don't get fooled by that for anybody looking for a side gig. But so after university, I did abrasive sales for a bit, and then I got at the end of the day, I was lucky. I had a friend of mine who, hey, I just moved to California for a new startup. And so I had a founder reach out to me and he said, hey, here's what we're doing. We're building at that time emergency notification software to do emergency alerts. So if you get emergency alerts on your phone, you can thank Everbridge for that because they're the largest player in that space. So I did that from probably seed all the way through IPO. And then after that, I came to BCG. As somebody, the main goal was ultimately to kind of start doing our build, operate, transfer practice. So not only do we do just the strategy work, how do we do, what markets do we go after? How do we do segmentation, coverage models, comp incentives, the kind of the paper strategy. But then over the last 8 years, we've built an entire program around, all right, great. Now that we've done the strategy, let's go build it with our clients, prove that it works, help them operate it, and then transfer it back to them. And that includes now CRM, and now obviously the topic du jour is AI. So we've got about 4,000 data scientists that do nothing but this as well. So it's a massive company where we can do a lot of.
Say that number again, because I don't know. Like you rolled through that pretty fast. How many data scientists again?
We're over 4,000 data scientists.
Yeah. That is almost an unfathomable number. Like, so we're going to need to, double click there in a minute. So you said you studied in engineering. What kind of engineering did you study?
I did interdisciplinary engineering and management is my technical major. So it's basically all the core engineering classes that any engineer would take. And then I specialized in supply chain and business as like my minor, so to speak.
Got it. Okay. Why that?
Just unique program.
Mostly curious. Like that's, everybody has a backstory that's to me super fascinating, and it kind of explains why you're probably where you're at with the Chewbacca in the background. But why that? Like, how did you get into that? Were you into engineering? Did you think you'd become, an engineer when you were this age, or what got you there?
I had no clue what I was doing. All I knew is I was good at math, and that's about it. And so I should probably go do something with math. But then I was also at that point, my whole family's telling me I should go be a lawyer, because all I do is get myself out of bad situations throughout my entire life, and as the class clown. And then so this program had like both technical and business. So I'm like, all right, let's go see what that's about. And so that was what brought me to Clarkson. For anybody who's from the Northeast and follows college hockey and engineering.
That actually, and it actually makes sense. You know, good at math and frankly, you know, good at talking your way, around things like consulting. That makes total sense now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, full circle.
I used to talk myself out of things. Now I talk people into things.
It's a same skill. That's amazing. Okay, so how did you end up at BCG, and kind of what's your role? Like, what do you do at BCG today?
So how I ended up here is, I've known a few of the folks here that help run the sales practice for a long time. And so as I was helping Everbridge scale the organization, they were always really interested in, hey, tell me more about what you're doing there. And so we're thought partnering on a lot of different things. So I was using them and they were using me to help, like, hey, what are you doing the latest and greatest? What are startups and tech doing? And I was saying, hey, how are large organizations doing these things and how are they operating and how should we think about scale? So we'd always kind of been, exchanging. And then when the time finally came, it was like, hey, here's the transition that we are thinking about making here within the sales practice at BCG. And so we need somebody to help come lead this and help build a team and then eventually a whole full program to do that. So I help run the sales practice here at BCG. And so that means across industries. So I spend a lot of time obviously in tech, but then especially being on the West Coast now, being in LA. I do across industries. So you name the industry, there's a good chance I've seen it. Ranging from, we've got private equity companies that have smaller companies, all the way up to the world's largest companies, Fortune 15 companies. So it's really interesting to see the gambit.
I was going to say, it gives you this crazy insight to see like this full range, and especially you've been there long enough that you've seen lots of this disruption and this transition. I've got a bunch, private equity buddies who are, I'll say scrambling to kind of adapt, both scrambling and being very opportunistic in what's happening right now. So let's like, you've got a bunch of pretty rich insights I want to dig into. The first one, I would love your take on, like, what's real, what's hype, what's really going on from your standpoint.
Yeah, to answer this really directly, I think people are overcomplicating it, right? And there are a lot of things that are very real right now. And even though you can see our publications, you've seen everybody has seen the MIT study where you got a bunch of people that aren't getting the value. But there are very real things that are happening. There are things that are people. AI is already eliminating manual work. The stuff that we've heard and we know exists: enrichment, follow-ups, activity capture, personalization. Those things are working. That's not experimental, right? Those things are working. There's also an area where AI definitely massively increases activity. You can generate more emails, more touches, more outbound than ever before, right? Like
it's kind of that raw activity. Yeah,
that's right. Things are working. And I guess as we get into what it also does, it also exposes a lot of gaps in your systems very quickly. And so what I mean by that is, and one of the largest gaps, of course, is going to be, the challenge with AI is not the technology, right? It's the scaling piece, and it's the change management, and that's the gaps in the systems component, right? So most companies can pilot AI, very few can operationalize it across real workflows. And so that's the kind of the struggle that we've seen. And to be honest with you, like, we've kind of seen this before. And so, like, when you think about outreach and sales loft and InsideSales.com, right? Like, they were game changing. There's no doubt about it. They were game changing because it was structured, it was repeatable, it was low judgment work, sequences, cadences, huge unlock, right? Like we've seen that. But even today, we don't get full value out of those tools. We let reps build their own sequences, write their own copy, do their own thing. And we've all seen those emails where it's like, are you effing kidding me?
It's obviously AI. I know.
Well, no, it's not only obviously AI, but the ones that you think about the way that you used to do it with sales and with sales loft and outreach is that people write their own. They say, hey, I can do this better. I can write my own. And we've all seen some cringy sales, real salespeople. And if I ask that sales rep, hey, was that yours? Oh yeah, the honest answer is our egos say we think we can do this better, right? And so then what we did is we said, hey, we took a structured system and made it unstructured again. And then said, here, have at it. And then we created the spam cannons and then everything went kind of haywire. Now fast forward to AI. Now we're saying, hey, let's automate personalization and messaging and outbound, but we haven't even solved the problem in the previous generation of tools. So like, so I think like that's where we start to get into like, hey, there's some real fundamental breakdowns in the systems that we have and like the guardrails, which we'll talk about. So that was a bit of a side point to what's real, and and I'll pause there.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
As well.
Yeah. So look, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, right? So what I heard from you is like, look, a lot of the basic capabilities are there. Like they work. There's automations. There's lots of volume of stuff is happening, but there's a lot that. And in fact, we're seeing the same thing kind of in our customer base and in our prospect base, where it's like it's accelerating whatever systems you put in place. So like if you've got really bad CRM data, like it's just going to accelerate whatever you put in there. If you've got a really terrible sequence, it's going to do that really terrible sequence at crazy scale, right? So what are the biggest problems? Like what are the things that are like preventing success right now in some of these projects?
Well, you kind of already started to hit on like the CRM piece and like those components. So like data is absolutely the most critical piece. It always has been the most critical piece, even before before Gen AI came on the scene and agents. The reality of it is that especially, and nowadays, and I know that we've got a broad range of folks on the call, it's like you've got folks that are saying, hey, like things are really great. You may be working for a smaller growth tech, like things are really great. It's contained. And, I've got the ability to my data and my process, data's clean, teams are aligned. Everyone kind of knows what's going on, right? And as you start to scale and you start partitions and integrations don't go as well as you thought they were, or they don't happen at all.
Right.
About the larger you get, the more people you hire, you bring on new leaderships, you acquire more companies and you acquire more tools. Data gets messy. That's number one. Process diverges, right? Like if you ask one sales team how they do it and how they run their pipeline and what the definitions of the stages are, you're going to get, a different answer from every single one. So like, as you start to get to those areas, that's where things really start to break down, is if I don't have the kind of and by the way, that is the two questions I get from CROs at all size companies, all the way up to the largest is, hey, what's the latest with AI? What do we need to be doing with this? Tell me what's real, what's hype, what's not, right? And then the second one is like, that's good and great, but I've got a fundamental problem still. I don't have accountability. I don't know if my reps are any good. I don't know whether they're targeting the right things. I don't know what marketing is doing. So like, there's still those fundamental things that people are asking about. Like, hey, I gotta get those things right, because to your point, if I don't have those things and data is messy and process is bad, it's just going to exacerbate the problem.
Totally. So you said something. I think you shared it with Gabe before the event today, where you say most companies are implementing AI backwards. You kind of alluded to some of those problems. Explain what you mean by that. It's a fascinating concept. By the way, I think I agree with you, but I need to understand what you mean.
So when you say, I guess I'm trying to remember which point that was. And when you say AI backwards, so like I think
they're approaching it backwards.
Yeah,
so
I think go ahead.
So I think what you were alluding to, and maybe I'll trigger a thought here, is they're starting in the wrong. I think they're starting with the tool, not the process, I think is what you were alluding to.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, that's right. And so like when we think about it's kind of like the same problem that we've always been into, is like, hey, we start with a very specific pain point and a very specific problem, not a workflow. So when we say pain point, hey, I've got a forecasting problem. So I'm going to go get a Clary, I'm going to get people to AI, right? I'm going to get those types of tools. And I'm focused on a very specific pain point. And so when you think about that, is all that does is put us in the same problem we've always been. Tool proliferation is like, hey, great, now apply AI to that same thing, that same lens, and focus on that individual pain point. I'm now focusing on and having the same problem where I'm going to get more AI tool proliferation. I'm going to focus on that same pain point instead of looking at an entire workflow and how I do things entirely different, and where the entire process is going to be different with AI. not just an individual point within that
tool. And that, look, this is the I don't know, the burden of every sales leader. They always think, hey, if I just buy this tool, it's going to fix my sales process. And so there's always this new shiny tool. It's like, oh, outreach, it's going to fix my cadences. My sales reps write terrible emails. Now they'll be great. It's like, the problem is, and we were just talking to Victoria. She's like, I mean, she just owned it. She's like, I love the next shiny thing. Like, I want to buy the next AI tool. Like, it will fix all of my problems. But dude, it never works. It's not an AI problem. It's a leadership problem, right? So how should they like approach this? Because there's this proliferation of tools that are going to solve all of our ails, right? Like AI is going to fix everything. What should they do? Like how do they kind of, where do they start in this kind of cacophony of noise?
Yeah, and I think from our perspective at BCG, like we always say, like there's a 10, 20, 70. So 10 is the algorithms, 20% is technology, 70% in change management. And so when we think about the change management aspect of things, and as I mentioned, like the point solution versus a workflow, like when I say workflow, like I either have to redesign the workflow or I've got to make sure that point solution is built in the workflow that I'm already used to. Don't make me go to another tool, right? Yes, they are shiny and they are great. And you're going to have a natural set of people who are going to go adopt those. And they're going to say, fantastic, I love it, I'll go do it. That's going to be a fraction of it. And then you're going to have your leadership saying, hey, that's great, but why aren't we getting adoption when they're the ones, when they raise their hand and saying, well, are you using it? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to your point earlier is like leadership does have I'm going to start at that top first, and maybe I'll unpack that a little bit. I think we've got into this problem where, one, AI ownership right now is unclear. And so who owns this, and especially who owns it within the function? Yes, you can sit here and say, well, IT owns, CTO owns, whatever it might be, like they own it. But the reality of it is like, okay, well, the customer is going to be sales, for example. And as a sales leader and as a CRO, we always, when we developed the term CRO, the point was I want to make it operational, right? They should understand the ins and outs of the operations of that. I'm asking them to also understand AI. And now I'm also asking RevOps also understand AI. And I'm also asking them to understand how IT develops things. And so when you think about that at the top, before we even get into like change management adoption, I am asking for a team of people, or I'm asking one individual to understand all of these components and understand how we're going to go fix it and how we're going to go deploy it. So what ends up happening is, and then I'll pause, is the reality is that same thing with CRM is, hey, sales says I need this, IT says, great, I can build that for you. And then what happens is when they deliver it, sales says, that's not what I asked for, right? And then all of a sudden, then sales is like, well, screw this, I'm gonna go get my own tool. Now I get a third-party tool on it, and then IT goes, why did you buy that? I could have built that within there. And now we get in this vicious cycle. This is only going to make things worse with AI, because now IT doesn't even know AI because they're all learning this too. And sales certainly doesn't know it. And now you're asking RevOps to go do it. So it starts at the top right there as first and foremost.
So what do you recommend? Because we see the same, by the way, the very same problem is where a bottoms up AI deployment from what we've seen is rarely successful. So how do we solve that problem? So,
first and foremost is understand that, you can't just go ask RevOps to know something, to know this new topic, right? And to know AI. Yeah. And you can't just think reps are going to know how to go use this tool and say, hey, let's go blanket, give everybody access to Claude and just assume that they're going to know how to write prompts and they're going to know how to interact with it. And instead, they're going to get an analysis paralysis. And they're just going to continue to use it. Now they put shrinks, and I've got an activity problem. Go ahead.
One thing, because you just triggered an interesting thing that we're saying, and I think you're saying this. They need to start with a strategy. Like you can't just start throwing tools out there at an executive level sponsorship. They need to say, this is our AI approach. This is what we're going to do.
Yep, absolutely. And then the thing is I actually in this world I have to rely on outside vendors. This is one of those areas where I have to. It's not like I've got a bunch of Salesforce certified admins I can go hire. right? That's why you have the FDE, the forward deployed engineer, that's coming along. But I can't just, to the point earlier, I can't just put an engineer. I need somebody from the business as well. And so I need somebody that's looking at the business case, the value, to make sure that what we are delivering is what we've set out to achieve on the business value. So that's your point around like the strategy. But then when I bring the strategy together with IT, or the forward deployed engineers, I've got to bring those folks along the journey, and we've got to be tied at the hip, and we're going to build it in real time. But I need to make sure, especially for sales, like there's a, and it depends on, where you guys are at, what you focus on, but there's always the art and the science. And so there's a version of this where what guardrails am I going to put in place earlier on? Like how tight do I want to provide this? How much science do I want to provide versus as I go more upmarket enterprise, maybe I want to give them more liberties and more the ability to do their own more art, meaning I open it up to give them the ability to do more prompts and to do things on their own. So you have to play all that, and that all comes back to the strategy and the thinking of the governance of how we're going to do this before I start like going and doing anything
Giving
else.
tools, just throwing tools at people.
Right.
Okay, so let's say they've got their strategy in place. What's the next thing? So these are the governance. We have kind of InfoSec. We have the business leader in place. Like we know what we're going to do. We're going to replace, the event in AISDR. So we're going to really focus on the pipeline creation. And this is our current process. What's the next thing they do?
So like I know we talked about like pilot, you get stuck in piloting and that's where we are, but we have to do that, right? We have to actually go test and learn. Right. You have to do that. Like, and you have to do it and you have to learn from it. And the problem though is that a lot of times what we do is we go test on the things that are going to be the most problematic. And what I mean by that is
100%. Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to interrupt you because you've just triggered me. We have so many clients, bro, it's killing me. We have so many clients who are like, look, this is working already, so we don't want to mess with that with the humans. This whole process is broken. AI should fix this, right? And then they never 0.0% success rate on those already failed approaches. Okay, so what do? How do you fix this problem? Like where should they approach it? Like instead of, throwing tools at the most broken, internal systems, like think in this AISDR space or just the pipeline creation space. What should they do then?
So I like to think about it as like start to work where things are already structured, repeatable, and you've got the ability to fail. And so that's why where you do see this working and what is real is you see this a lot in services. You see it in long tail, right? You see it where you've got the ability, especially AISDR is like with you guys, like you see it working at that lower end right now quite well. Because I've got the ability to fail. It's like the old thing with marketing, between marketing and sales. The second marketing says gives you one bad email, I'm going to assume they're all, or one bad lead, I'm going to assume they're all bad. You have AI now communicating directly with people. The first time that they send one bad message or one bad call, it's like, hell's going to break loose. I've got to stop that. So I have to be able to test and learn and have the ability to fail. And so a lot of times people will start on where is it structured? Where is it repeatable? Where do I know I've got good data? Where do I know that I can learn from those things and also upskill my people along the way? Because if I'm working with the consultants, if I'm working with the vendors, I can upskill my people along the way, but I've got to give them the ability to do that and give them that's their job. I can't just go ask them and say, hey, RevOps, you already got 5 other jobs. Now go do this too. And without taking something off their plate. So you've got to learn and you give people the ability to learn along the way as well.
So that's an important nugget. And I just want to, as you share some of these things, I want people to, the listeners to come and understand this. You can't give an AI initiative or a project to somebody whose stack is already full because they just don't have the time, and it will almost inevitably fail, wouldn't it? Because they're just like, they have so much on their plate. It's one new thing. They don't understand it. And so you need a net new person or somebody with an open, stack of they don't have too much already on their plate.
That's right. Okay. Like, and it's not like hey, let's go grab the seller who does the most crazy things today and can go figure this out.
Which is something we see.
It is. And by the way, like those are really good for learning. I want those folks. I want them a part of these programs. I want them to be able to test and beat it up. And by the way, back to the change management piece, I also want the loudest voices, and I want to convert them. Because if I can convert them, then that's going to help my change network and become change champions to help drive change the rest of the organization. But what I can't do is say, hey, that's the end all be all, and they do it best, and now everybody go repeat what that seller
do what
does.
They're doing.
Yeah, there's a new way of doing things. Actually, what's funny is I was on a panel with Marcus Jewell, and Marcus mentioned, he's like, I'm going to start looking at for philosophy majors. And because philosophy majors, like, they've got the ability to do critical thinking. They've got the ability to do, like, they're going to naturally think clearly, structure ideas, the right types of questions, because that's what prompting is about. Myself included in this, like, when you look at what I do, like, okay, I've got to take a step back and give myself time to learn this aspect. Otherwise, I fall back in my old habits and I'm just asking it dumb things. And then I get stuck in analysis paralysis, like trying to get the right email. So it's no different than what you're going to deal with. And so you need folks that actually can be upskilled on this. And you've got to work with outside resources and outside companies like yourselves in order to do that. Like, your people are not going to be able to configure it. They can't configure these things naturally.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I think we're almost out of time. So if you were to say, and look, we could talk for probably more time than you and I have, but if you were to give people one piece of advice, be like, as you're thinking about deploying AI in your organization, especially kind of in your go-to-market in your sales organization, what's like the one kind of key learning that you'd recommend people employ?
I think probably the thing is everybody is in growth mode in some form, right? Nobody is on this call thinking I'm being stagnant in my role and I'm expecting to grow. So, as I think about the challenge, most companies don't stay simple. So the question really isn't, does AI work today? It's really, will this work when our organization becomes more complex? And because that's where most of the problems start to show up. So I have to start thinking about like that in the future is like, okay, great. Everything seems to be working really well today, or I may be testing this pilot. And the same idea is, if I'm piloting it, what happens when I go to scale this? What is going to break? And I have to start thinking ahead of time, and data being one of them, right? The data being a very, very, probably the largest one of them. Yep. So I have to focus on what's going to break when I scale and thinking about that.
That's super helpful. So again, what I've heard from you is a couple of things. One, you need a key strategy. Like, you start with that strategy and executive sponsorship. Two, you have to run trials. You have to, they're going to be messy, but you've got to run those trials. Three, you've got to think, if it is successful, how does it scale? And then maybe four, who owns these? Like, who owns these projects? Both from a sponsorship where you've got some evangelist who's doing some crazy stuff, to who's your RevOps person who's going to go, deal with the plumbing and the routing and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's lots of things you've shared, but just at the end here, those 4 key learnings are super interesting to me. Any other last piece of advice? Again, you have so much insight. You have so many you have access to so many of these companies. Well, I guess I know I said it was the last thing, but I have one last thing. Is there a tool? Is there an approach, Gabe? I know we're out of time, bro. Is there a tool or
That's
an approach?
not what this means. I was just coming to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Screw you. No. Is there a thing that is the easiest win? Like, is there a low hanging fruit that you could tell people who are watching, look, there's a lot to do, but this is the low hanging fruit. This is a quick win.
Well, I would say the quick wins are some of the fundamentals. Because ultimately, if you're going to bring anything to your leadership, including your CEO, they are going to be wondering more about the fundamentals. So focus on those fundamental things like being consistent and getting your definitions and being consistent with pipeline stages, right? How do I get those things and make sure I've got the consistency right? Because if I don't do any of those things, I won't be able to measure any of this. And I won't be able to prove that we've got success, and I won't be able to understand my adoption. So so that's really where I always focus is as I am doing, no matter what I am building AI related, make sure that I'm fixing the fundamentals along that process, because otherwise AI is just going to, back to your original point, AI is just going to make it worse. And so that's the quick win is the fundamentals, and then applying AI to those fundamentals.
To those, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I kind of hate your answer because you're saying you got to do the hard work first, which is right.
Yeah.
You can't just buy a tool that's going to fix everything. You really have to sit down, think through your process, build your systems. And this is where you started. Like you have to, it's your workflow. You have to do the work of understanding your workflow, your process, your steps, and then you can build automation around it.
100%.
That's the right answer. It sucks because that's just like,
no one wants to do the work.
We don't want to do that. Okay, Matt, honestly, thank you. Like, it's amazing. Like, really, I'm very grateful. I think there's a ton of people who have kind of tuned in. I think very appreciative. If they have questions, what's the best way they can reach out to you? I think you probably heard Victoria. She's TikTok. So, sorry, I'm in a weird.
It's not TikTok. Tell me it's not TikTok.
Yeah. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it LinkedIn or email, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, LinkedIn, email. I heard the jokes too. It's very easy to get my email. You all have tools to get that, so that's not going to be challenging. LinkedIn is good. That's the only social media I use. I sit on the board for the Organization for Social Media Safety. So there's a conversation. Go check that out, by the way. You could learn a lot about how to keep you and your family safe on these things. LinkedIn would be the only one, and I would say that's bad enough.
That checks out. That makes sense. So look, again, thank you so much. Like, it's been even like I think I've learned a ton. I'm sure everybody else has. So this is amazing. If people want to engage, we have lots of large organizations attending. I would say, we've known Matt for forever. He is an absolute pro, one of the best in the industry. So if you're considering some outside help to come in and help, as you're evaluating AI solutions in your go-to-market, I would ask that. I'd recommend you reach out to Matt. So thanks again, Matt, for doing this.
Love it, Matt. Appreciate it. Man. Appreciate it. Take care. Take care. Cool. Yeah. Look,
amazing, man. Killer. Absolutely amazing.
What stood out the most to you, man? What?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing obviously is like you just have to do the hard work first. Yeah. Like I hate it. Like it's eat your vegetables first. But we've seen this as we've engaged with customers. If you will accelerate whatever systems you've built in. And if you have bad processes, like he said, actually, probably the most important thing is if your processes are wrong, you could deploy pilots, you could run systems, you could, buy technology, and you'd have no idea whether it works or not. If you can't measure the outcome, you're just wasting your money. It'll be anecdotal and it'll be fun. And we see this. I guess the second thing he also said is like, you have to have that executive sponsorship. Yeah. If you have a bottom-up initiative, it will never get legs. Like it could run for a while, but it'll never get legs to actually make any meaningful impact. So I would say those are the two things. Start with the hard work, get your executive sponsorship in place.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah,
cool. So
cool.
So you're going to interview head of
sales development at Meta. Yeah,
this is amazing. This is your old. You were at Meta, so this is like your old.
This stomping ground, bro. Yeah, this is old stomping ground. Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually,
so I'm excited to listen in.
Yeah, and they're doing some cool stuff. This is a function that's kind of come and gone, but Mo has really revitalized it. So I think it'll be a pretty cool conversation. So with that, let's Mo, you want to drop on in? Let's do
Mo,
it, Dave.
To have you. I'll let you guys talk, but Mo, I'm going to listen in. I'll probably heckle Gabe via text. So if you see him laugh, it's going to be me. But I'm actually super excited. Like what you guys are doing, I mean, you guys are totally on the forefront of what's happening in AI. Obviously, with your model release yesterday, kind of exciting. Give Gabe the skinny, man. Tell us what's working.
Happy to share what I can.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Cool. Dave, thanks for joining. We'll get out of here. Mo, thanks for joining. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Appreciate you taking the time. I think this will be a fun session. A lot of people wondering always what's going on over at Meta. It'll be cool to hear some of the latest musings. Again, he's running sales development, a big sales development team over there at Meta. As we normally do, though, Mo, would love to kind of start at the beginning. Tell us, a little bit about where you're from. What did you study in school? How the heck did you get into sales development? Start at the beginning.
Absolutely. So originally born and raised in Tel Aviv, I came to the US some while ago. And for school, I did something really interesting, actually. I went to college and I studied biology. I did some really
That
like
makes tons of sense.
hardcore.
Biology to sales development, sure. Yeah, I love
Oh,
that. Works
you
perfect.
know what? You'd be surprised how great the fit is between it, because eventually we're talking about the survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah.
If you fit to the game, you can win. And sales
Ooh,
development
I like it.
is an evolution of we try something, the buyer immune to it, and then we try something new, and then they figure it out, and then we try something new. So it's a game. It's a game that we keep playing, and it's an evolution of both sides.
Fascinating, man. Look, I love the connection there. And then you and I were chatting a little bit. I spent some time at Meta, and there wasn't a big focus on sales development, but that's something you've kind of re-energized for the organization. Maybe walk us through how this team kind of got formulated.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined Meta 4 years ago, basically to lead the sales development function for Reality Lab, it was not even sales development was not a thing. It was just sales manager. And throughout working with the process and realizing, hey, there is actually a really specific need for this function of sales development to be able to see the entire picture from above and understanding how leads are coming in, what do we do with them, what's the process, how inbound works, how outbound works.
Love it.
This is not something that you can just drop a sales manager into
Yes,
it,
agreed.
expect to have good results. You need somebody that really understands the in and out of the business, and this is where this new function kind of emerge in Meta.
And how did you convince, convince maybe isn't the right word, but I think a lot of people debate, how do you get a team like this started? Was it a big ROI, or was it just the conversation you just kind of went through? Like, we need a different structure in order to handle the model that's basically kind of presented itself, or how do you get this signed off, a team like this signed off on?
So like any other good thing, it happens organically.
Yeah.
Cool. Especially at Meta, you've been part of the team in the past. You know exactly how it works. You need to grow into the role.
Absolutely.
Like, the oldest advice in the book is just work to the job that you want to be, that you want to have. That's exactly what happened. Once you do it over and over again, and you build the structure for it, then it's very natural just to own it and keep doing it.
Yeah, fascinating, man. Well, again, congrats on the success and the cool stuff you're doing over there. So one of the things, when I was at Meta, the debate was, do you bring teams in-house and do kind of sales stuff? Do you kind of outsource stuff? And I'm curious, in your career, how you've managed that idea, how you feel like that should be done in different scenarios. Thoughts on that and how you've kind of adapted to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout my career, I worked with different teams.
Yeah.
There are, let's say, about 3 main ways you can do it in today's world. The first one is just outsource everything, give it to a company. I work with companies in the Philippines, in Asia, in Europe. Just outsource the process. The second way is outsource, but bring it close to you. Maybe hire some contingent workers, have them sit around you and do the BDR job, SDR job that you need to be done.
Yep.
And the third one is actual hiring the team and let them be part of the team. Every step that you go remote from your core business, you are getting less and less quality. And it's something that it's very clear to see when the team is actually have stack in the game.
Yeah.
And they're responsible, and their growth depends on their activity. They will work harder, they will produce better. Every step remote, you're getting less and less quality. And it's something that I saw throughout my career. over and over again.
Fascinating. So your typical vote is, yeah, if you can. I mean, there's all sorts of different situations, but yeah, as it goes away from you, you lose a little bit of quality. And so you have to manage that idea in your decision making as you kind of build out these teams, I assume, huh? Yeah, I want to shift gears from an organizational structure, to the talk of the day, just with AI. Big picture, Meta obviously has AI involved in it. You've got a background in technology. How do you see AI impacting the overall sales development function right now?
Yes. Overall, we see just the AI being a force multiplier for sales development like nothing we've seen before. The ability to hand off tasks that used to be mundane tasks that takes a lot of time and energy. Sometimes you hire somebody to do it. For example, finding account, enriching them, personalize them, and all of that. I used to have a function separately just for that, just to go ahead and find the account. Now enrich it. Now pass it to the BDR team, to the SDR team. Especially when I work back in the days in startups in New York. That was the process. I hand off the tedious work offshore, so somebody will do all the research for me.
Oh, interesting.
And then I bring it in ready for my BDRs and SDRs to actually go ahead and sink their teeth and do what they do best.
So you did in the past, you've kind of used other departments, other offshore to be able to take the process and split it. A lot of that research identification, you kind of push that to somebody else. And then the SDRs just did what they did, the calling, the reach out, et cetera, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, in this world, when AI is basically giving you all these power tools, you don't need to do it anymore. You can actually spin up an agent that will do it for you, that will do the prospecting and account research and enrichment and qualification, and then you'll bring it ready for the team to actually sink their teeth into it. And this is what AI does best, and this is what humans are doing best. Yeah. So we need to be very careful about what we offload to AI and what we leave to the team to do. So anything that AI is good at, go ahead, full force. But don't let AI dictate how the human are acting and sending all the emails at mass, because what you will get eventually is just high volume, a lot of emails out, a lot of activities, but conversion will not be there. So make sure that you separate to the human what human do best.
Yeah. Do you feel, I mean, you were kind of walking through that process. So in your experience and getting a little tactical, what are some of those tactical things where, yeah, human here, AI there? Sounds like research definitely in the AI category. How would you split some of those just to give the audience maybe a couple tangible examples?
Yeah, sure. So what I did, and I would recommend anybody on this call to do the same. First, understand your ideal customer profile. This is something that you cannot move to the next step without getting it done.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Go ahead, go to Claude, go to whatever AI tool that you use, give it a lot of information about your business, your company, the space. Let it run and suggest some ideal customer profiles. You might get to the 80% and you need to take it to the 100%, but start there. Get this done. Once you got it done with AI, move to the next step, move to enrichment. Create an agent for enrichment. Now, when I say create an agent, you can go ahead and outsource it. You can get a company to do it for you. But when you're just starting and you don't know what you don't know, build your own agent.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. Go, if you want to be adventurous, go ahead, get OpenClaw, get an agent, and connect the dots. If you're more technical, you can connect the dots by yourself. If you need some help, you can do it a little more manually. But let the system run for you at the beginning. Get the AI do what AI does best, which is enrichment, qualification,
Mm-hmm.
scoring. Once you have all of that done by AI, bring the human in.
That's
I
where
will go up to the step of creating a draft for the human and land it as a draft in their Gmail or whatever system you use, so the human can go through it and actually say,
yeah,
okay, that thing looks good, qualification looks good, everything looks good, hit send.
I like that. So yeah, you kind of have been pushing more that front part to AI. Once it's ready to go, you kind of turn that next part to human. How do you balance? You mentioned a few tools and kind of the build some of your own, like whether it's your own world, maybe your team or what you're seeing outside. How do you feel like companies should manage the build versus buy stuff? You know, should you go and build? I mean, you can build a lot of stuff yourself. You mentioned like a Claude. But certainly there's partners you could invest in as well. How have you tried to navigate that or seeing other people navigate that?
Yeah, it's really depends on your stage and your understanding of the process.
Yeah.
So I have a very simple test that I do. If you can write your ICP on a piece of paper and your qualification process and give it to a stranger on the street, and it will work, it will understand exactly what you do, great. You have a process, you can go ahead and scale, and then give it to another company to run. You have a playbook that works. If this is not the case for you, and you are still struggling with who is my ideal customer profile, what's the communication framework, how do I qualify them? If you take this broken process and offload it, you basically offload the mess.
Yeah.
And you will get more mess on the other side. You cannot offload the thinking, okay? You need to do the thinking. You can use the AI to do the thinking for you, but you will be the one that needs to do the thinking. So, long story short, if you have a process that works, scale it. If you have a process that doesn't work, build it yourself first. You will gain so much by building it. Okay, we are all builders. Okay, we can build stuff today that we could not build just a few months ago. Build the process for yourself, finesse it, get it tight, make it work, then go ahead and scale.
I love it. I love it. Super helpful, man. Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting debate of buy versus build. But to your point, you can't really automate something that's broken. So you better know what the heck you're doing in the first place. I'd love to hear, stories or experiences yourself or others where maybe you've seen some wins, maybe you've seen some losses. I mean, you've kind of hit some concepts here, but I'm curious if there's any shared experiences you could bring to the audience where a lesson learned in AI, where maybe you didn't win, and you're like, oof, I'm glad we did that so we knew better the next time. Or on the flip side, where you did have some wins in AI and you felt like, hey, this is a great place where technology can really help and win. Any stories or experiences come to mind that are shareable?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is something about using AI and using BDRs that a lot of companies now, they don't really understand. And we need to look at the big guys, okay? We need to look at companies like Anthropic and OpenAI and what they do in the space.
Yeah.
So let's throw some data on the table, okay? 36% of companies reported last year that they cut their BDR team. Okay, that's a big number.
That is.
Now, when you look at companies like Anthropic, they basically building AI. Look at their career page. They hiring BDRs and BDRs managers like crazy.
I saw that actually.
Yeah, same for OpenAI. Okay, so the companies that builds it, they're hiring. The companies that buy it, they'll let these people go. And that makes you think, like, what do they know that we don't know?
I love that, man.
Okay, so the 36% drop in human BDRs, that's absolutely right. If you can get more productive with AI, if you can throw AI to get the job done to get the research and qualification and all of that, great. You're going to make great decisions by doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm going back to the process. Okay? If you don't have the process,
nailed down. Yeah,
it's
you
not
can't.
going to work. Now, another thing is that what people don't really get about agents is that they think that agent is going to work right out of the box. You get it out of the box, you got an AI agent, you let it run. Consider the agent to be just a junior BDR. Okay?
Yeah, got to onboard it.
You need to onboard it. You need to give him examples, what works, what doesn't work, without holding its hand for I don't know how many weeks, but it takes time.
It's a few weeks for sure, right?
It takes time. You need to fine tune it. You need to make it work for you. You need to do prompt engineering. You need to basically keep going back to the prompt and say, hey, that's a bad example. That's a good example. That's a good score. That's a bad score. That's a good email. That's a bad email.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work for you automatically. And personally, I experienced it when I built my own system. And I saw that, you know what, agent can go rogue. So make sure that you put enough time there before you let them go free.
I love that. Yeah, it's not always turnkey. Sometimes you got to play that onboarding game, almost like a junior sales developer. I love that. I think that's a great example. One of the challenges I've heard from reps is with the AI stuff is that sometimes they have a hard time finding the balance of hitting their number and building AI or playing with AI. Any advice, is this just something people need to do after hours? Like how have you seen or coached people to, get curious and find ways to automate some of your world, but at the same time, keep your face focused on the goal and make sure you don't miss your number. You don't want to have that happen. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what a lot of companies are doing is they pointing the AI outwards. They're pointing the AI to
the
write
customer,
their email.
Emails,
Get personalization, get all of that. That's great, but that's not taking full advantage of your AI system. My suggestion is point it inwards, point it to the BDRs. Make the BDRs
better,
way more efficient with the AI tools that you have, with getting better reporting, with getting better coach. AI can coach your reps.
Yep.
Okay, you can have a bigger team that does way more if you let AI actually be really part of it, inwards, not just outwards.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that is an interesting debate. Do you push it to your customers or to your employees? And your take is, get the employees, get them going before you push it to your customers. I think that's a good one. Where do you stand? I like the rapid fire questions here, but it's already been talked a little bit in kind of the event here today, but where do you stand on kind of the enable versus kind of a race conversation? So, some people, as you said, are like, we're cutting our BDR team and we can replace it with AI. And some people are like, hey, more on the just enablement, make them more powerful. You've certainly highlighted the enablement side, but how do you kind of talk through that? Do you think AI can eliminate SDRs? Do you think it is just meant to enable? How do you kind of take that to the market?
Yeah, there is, I think in my view, there is really no debate that AI will give your BDR team superpowers.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily going to replace. It's going to maybe remove the BDRs that are not using it and they don't know how to use the tools. If you give your BDR an ability to run agents on their behalf, to use AI, BDRs, SDRs to actually help them do their job better, you will get great results. If you're just thinking that you're going to replace, it's not going to replace them. You still need what human can do best. And this is judgment. Judgment call of a BDR that set through thousands of calls. This is something that no training data will be able to provide a model.
Yeah.
Sitting on a call, understanding your buyer, if he said something but meant something else? Did he not say something that you want him to say? Like, it's not just a qualification that you go and check the marks, say, okay, I have a qualified lead. Qualification is a framework that need to be keep worked and keep updated. You know, we all in sales, we know that sales never stop.
Yeah.
Never. You start a conversation, you're selling. You follow up, you're selling. Is in your pipeline and you're still selling. That's something that AI will not do. And last point, relationship building. AI cannot do it for you.
Yeah.
In the future, not in the far future, but we will have agent to agent selling. Okay. My AI agent will reach out to my prospect.
Yep.
And my prospect will have his own agent that sits on top of his mailbox and basically look at all the incoming mail and say, okay, my boss said that I'm not interested in this, and that. Ooh, that actually look interesting. Let me start a conversation with the other agent, and they will run the conversation and bring up to us if it's actually a good or not opportunity. Until we have agent-to-agent relationship, we need human in the loop.
Yeah. There is a balance. I think that's probably right. So Mo, appreciate it. We're kind of wrapping up here. We hit a bunch of different topics. So maybe I just end with this, you know, a lot of companies trying to start the journey to figure out how to grow more effectively. And that isn't just, you know, throw bodies at it or throw, you know, tools at it. AI needs to play a role.
Yeah.
What advice would you know, kind of summarize or give to them, especially those companies who are more or less kind of starting the journey? What feels like a fresh or new?
Yeah, I would say that outsourcing is a scaling decision. It's not an HR decision.
Okay.
It's not a strategic decision. Okay. Make sure that your process is intact and then go ahead and scale. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you, and you will blame the vendor for the problem that you didn't solve for yourself. So solve your issue first, and always remember that outbound is a mix of art and science. Okay, you need to get the science locked in. You need to know your numbers, you need to know your funnels, you need to run your research, but then you need to sprinkle a lot of art on top of it.
Yeah.
Once you have it baked, go ahead and explode it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's AI has had a harder time doing outbound, I think, in general, because of the art. The art is still the art, and it's sometimes a little hard to put into a process, you know, into a structure. So awesome. Mo, really appreciate your time. Been a fun talk track. I know you're doing some awesome stuff, so congrats. If someone wanted to continue the conversation, what's the best way to do that?
Reach out via LinkedIn.
There you are. You're still on it, just like the rest of us. I love it. Cool, man. All right. Well, with that, Mo, I'll let you go. Again, appreciate your time. For the audience, we're not quite done yet. We've got one more section that we wanted to pull you into. So if you stick around, we're going to do a quick award section. And then what will happen is we've actually interviewed what I consider to be 20 awesome individuals to get their perspective on what is working and not working in sales development. And that will be after the awards. So stick with me here for just 15 minutes. We'll knock this out and then move to that. So we are going to hit the awards section. We did two things here. We hit kind of the idea of thought leaders and then leaders. Some people said, Gabe, why are you doing this? What's this for? And look, I think we're all navigating this journey together. And so when we thought about this recognition concept, one, we were curious ourselves, you know, who should we be following? Who should you be following in order to learn some of the latest and greatest as it comes to sales development? And then on the flip side, it's always great to have someone say thank you, isn't it? It is, right? And so we wanted to also do that. A lot of these people, they take time to post on LinkedIn. They take time out of their day to talk to others. They take time to jump on sessions like this and talk through what's working and what's not working. And so we wanted to thank them for all the contribution they're putting forward to this changing environment of sales development. And so with that, I wanted to pop first to our first category of winners. Drum roll. Was that true? That was a drum roll, please. So we've got a handful of them here. Alan, he's a manager of sales development. You've got a manager of sales development from Maven. That's Hossein. Priyanka is a GTM sales manager. And then you've got Sean, who's growth and revenue optic AI. Would love it if we could have one or two or some of them join as we go through this. Curious is their take as to why and how they've been recognized, but would love to have them come on. Alan, how the heck are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Dude, congrats, man.
Thank you.
Look,
appreciate it.
Yeah, look, like I said, man, this is appreciate you jumping on for just a minute. Again, we were originally just going to put on this kind of virtual event, and someone said, God, we should find who are the people out there doing some cool stuff. And so we threw this together, and man, your name came to the top. So again, thank you for all your contribution to the space. But I'm curious, why do you feel like people recognize you? What are you doing right now in sales development to win? What's working?
Well, thank you very much, Gabe. I appreciate it. I think, one of the things that we're doing correctly here, and I know this is the overcoming theme, is we're really leveraging AI in order to, go to market, go to outbound and become more efficient.
Yeah.
I guess, to your other question, what am I doing correctly to be, recognized, is I've really, put at the forefront of creating good quality reps that not only go beyond just sales development, but into their sales careers. I think I've done it in the last 4 years by promoting over probably 30 reps into different more senior roles.
That came up a bunch in the votes and in the nomination process, Alan. Like, you've got an incredible ability to take people and move them to kind of the next level. Again, I don't mean to try to steal all your secrets, but that's basically what I'm trying to do here. How do you do that? What do you do to be able to have a number like that, promote and move dozens and dozens of people from sometimes a role that people get stuck in? You've been able to break through that glass and go forward. What's kind of your thoughts or best practices there?
Yeah, I think the first part is I don't approach it as I'm a manager. I approach it as I'm a coach, right? I'm a career coach. I'm a coach in your role, and I really get to know the person. There's different things that motivate different people. For some people, it might be money. For some people, it might be, hey, I want to be as time efficient and get into that next role. For some people, it might be as simple as something like this, right? Recognition. And so knowing what really triggers that, like, want to be better, and then working with them and really setting, short-term goals, long-term goals, and then overall, essentially following through with the plan and getting them to that next role.
I love it, man. Yeah, that was cool because that really came through, I thought, in some of the notes that we got about you. What would be your words of wisdom? I was just talking with Mo from Meta, and you're in this game as well, trying to figure out how to navigate through this ever-changing chaos. Any advice that you'd give people who are trying to grow their sales development function in these times that, again, are changing, minute by minute, day by day?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and I think Mo touched a little bit on it, is definitely embrace AI. I don't think AI is here to replace us per se.
I love it.
And I've seen it in our org where we've been able to enhance how we use AI, how we prospect through AI, right? How we, so even simple things like how we sell against our competitors. One of my favorite things to prompt is like, why would someone not want to buy us and want to buy this product, right? It was something that before was maybe, we had these battle cards, but today we can really go to market and find out about new releases and position ourselves as a strong leader. And I think that is a great thing to do within your role, right? To kind of hit your number. The other part you're talking about, like, why would someone want, what could someone do to continue to grow their career? I think there's a couple of different things. Consistency, wanting to, be always curious, right? I think in sales, especially what we do here, we can't just go to someone and say, hey, Gabe, you want to buy from us? Here we go. We got to build that curiosity. We got to build that why they should even talk to us. And so having that genuine curiosity and getting to know your customer and getting to know the company you're going after
Makes a huge
yeah,
difference, man.
exactly.
Cool. Well, Alan, congrats again. Like I said, great recognition, some awesome nominations, and thanks for all you're doing to help us move forward in kind of the ever-changing AI SDR environment. So I'll let you go,
Thank
but
you.
again, congrats, my man.
Thank you.
All right. So again, congrats to all that 20,000 total votes. That's a lot for this kind of category. But again, congrats to all these sales development leaders. Want to quickly shift over to a minute. We've got a few more guests on our thought leaders for sales development. That's the drum roll. And survey says, all right, we've got a couple of them. I'll have them jump in here slowly. We've got Dave Wilkins, currently founder and co-founder. Nick Freeman, onboarding specialist. We got Suji, and then Raul, founder of School of SDR. We were able to pull all of them on here. Guys, congratulations. And honestly, thanks for jumping on for a minute. I know that you don't have busy days, but wanted to, again, two parts here. One, wanted to get you on so that people know some of the people who are leading the category and the changes that we're having. But number two, thank you for taking the time. I know you're helping people. I know you're posting and you're kind of pushing the thought leadership forward on this ever-changing kind of environment. So want to just kind of highlight a couple of you and see if I can get quick thoughts on what you're doing to help change the world of sales development. Dave, let's start with you. A lot of votes coming in. I know you're doing cool stuff. It's always hard to brag a little bit, but what are you doing to help kind of move this kind of initiative forward with all things sales development?
Yeah, thanks ever so much. Big thing is meeting these amazing SDR leaders that are out there and helping drive this function forward. What's great is that I met Alan, Raul, Suji, Nick. We've all spoken before in the past. We've met face-to-face as well, all with this common goal of making this sales development function the critical function it should be in the business.
Yeah, I love it. Raul, what's your take on how organizations really need to navigate these changing environment? I mean, you've heard some different sessions today, but I'm curious on how are you coaching organizations to kind of manage the changes?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest gap, and I am the founder of School of SDR, School of Interviews, and I'm launching School of Sales. So you can imagine I'm sitting at the forefront of where I'm actually looking at things from different lenses, especially hiring point of view as well. So the biggest gap I am seeing right now in the sales development is not at all from the effort point of view. We have AI, we have technology more than ever. I think I'm seeing the misalignment of ICP, the persona, the messaging expectation, the trainings. And I think all these things are off, and there's no amount of activity or tooling which is able to fix that.
Yeah, it just feels like we got to find that balance still of human and technology. That's kind of the key that's got to continue to happen. Suji, you're in the thick of it, right? Actually running go to market. I'm curious how you guys are implementing some of these AI initiatives and how you're finding it successful or in some cases not successful.
Yeah, as being someone who grew up with technology like all around me, first things first, it's not going away. AI isn't going away. The biggest thing is using it as a supplement rather than a crutch. You can't use it to totally replace someone, but you should use it as a way to uplift a current strategy that you're already doing.
Yeah, that's funny. Will you mind telling that to my 14-year-old? No, I mean, in all seriousness, yeah, that is how do you make yourself better rather than just become dumber, as almost a crutch. And it's, I think, the great ones. I'm a little nervous, and Nick, I'd be interested in your opinion on this with your background kind of in enablement, but Suji, you kind of hit on it. In some cases, I'm a little nervous. I use it, I started as a sales development rep, back in, 25 years ago. And I learned the craft. I made the 150 phone calls, and all this, the blood, sweat, and the tears, that you're like, I did the 200 calls a day and talked to 2 people, and we brag about that like it's cool or something. But with that said, you learned about what worked. You talked to you when to call, what message to say, and you learned the craft. And so when I get an AI co-pilot, I feel like it can really, to your point, Suji, it can supplement, it can make me stronger and better. But man, as I see some of these new entrants coming in and they immediately go over and say, write me an email, and then they send that email without knowing, oh man, like what is the right level, or what shouldn't you say, or why did you make it so long? And I'm like, are we going to lose the craft? Are we going to lose the craft of sales development? So Nick, I'd be curious kind of on your take, having played in the enablement game.
The craft is not going away by any stretch of imagination. No way. I think the people coming into the SDR role now, they're coming in with a good understanding of what the role entails, what their mission is. They're searching companies. They're now using AI to find good alignments with them. So they're coming in passionate. They're coming in hot. They want to understand the ICP. They understand to a certain extent what the product is. And then you have to guide them and kind of teach them how to do it. It's a brilliant experience. You get to learn about all sorts of people, and you work with them throughout their personal development and align that with career goals. Then it's fantastic. It's a dream job.
You give me hope, Nick. You gave me hope, because I've been nervous about it, but I'm walking away just a tidge happier here. So again, don't want to take too much of your guys' time, but wanted to recognize each of you again. Thanks for your contribution, and thank you for what you're doing. If you haven't already checked it out, right? Raul School of SDR doing some really cool stuff. Dave is doing SDR leaders in EMEA and some of those. Nick and Suji are both more on the practitioner side, one at Trellis AI and LHH, but take the time to follow them, connect with them, please, because these are a few of the people that are forging new paths as we move into the AI era. So again, Raul, Dave, Nick, Suji, thanks for joining. I look forward to connecting with you guys offline, but we'll let you go at the moment, and we'll kind of move into our last section of the event. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. That's a wrap. That's AI sales development at its best. Some amazing sessions in the past. We had some awesome talk tracks, obviously, from Meta, from IBM, from BCG, and my good friend and mentor, Dave Elkington, the CEO of Autonom, doing some cool stuff there. Here's the agenda as we go forward. We've got 2 tracks coming down. One is rethinking the SDR in the AI era, and the second is running AI-driven SDR teams. You're going to see both tactical and strategic stuff as we get into some of these. It's so hard to mention all of them because, boy, do I want to do that, but I can't really do it. Just a couple to mention. Brandon Redlinger, boy, very tactical. We just opened up some of his outbound systems like Clay, and he just said, this is how you run outbound right now. I love that one. Daniel Quinn, a RevOps perspective of how this world of SDR is working. That was a really fun one. Tito, oh man, Tito's so great. All to sales. Just a real fresh perspective on how he's winning coaching companies outside of that Trinity in the signal-based motion. Oh man, there's so many good ones on this front. So Jane hitting the outsource model, how people are kind of thinking through some of that. So I'm blabbing a little bit. I should probably stop. Check these out. What you need to do on your computer, make sure you refresh, right? Flip that button and you'll see these sessions come live, and then they'll be around for the next weeks. If you can't hit it now, hit them later. I promise you'll want to digest each and every one of them. Connect with the speakers, reach out to them. We have got to be dialoguing about how people are winning and losing in sales development. And then last but not least, if you want to, interview an AI SDR. Check out Zoe. She's purpose-built to just talk to you about what AI SDRs do, how they do it, and how they can potentially help you. And so with that, thank you so much for joining. Best of luck in your prospecting days, hours, and minutes. Don't give up. There's always hope at the end of the tunnel. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.